Egypt is famous for its beautiful large tombs, like the pyramid tombs and the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. However, the Valley of the Kings tombs are one of a kind in how fancy they are. The bodies of people from lower groups may have ended up in less fancy places. Tombs were built to show how important people were while they were still living. The poor were buried in gray dirt that was dug out of the sand and topped with straw. These happened a lot in the time before the dynasties. A lot of people were found wrapped in linen in the fetal position. Some grave goods, like a piece of meat, a collar made of shells, and a pot full of music, would be next to the body. What's inside them and how they're built are even more amazing and mysterious. If you're interested, this movie will show you the forbidden tombs of ancient Egypt. When they were found, they shocked the world, and the new discovery is definitely something to think about. Don't forget to pay for more until the end. In Upper Egypt, what kind of building style was used down below? People built reed and wood tombs in Lower Egypt, which is at the downstream end of the famous Nile River. Mud bricks were used to line the graves. There might have been paint on the reeding wood, and there would have been a low reed fence around the tomb. People thought that the dead were members of the royal family or workers for the royal court because there were often 3 to 5 mummies in a grave. In the northern part of Egypt, you can find different kinds of tombs. The chapel's walls were going to be covered with paintings of leaves or hieroglyphs that showed how the wealthy people lived and how the farms would always produce food for them. The coffins also had the same thing carved into them. It was usually pulled from the Book of the Dead to help protect and guide the dead as they went to the afterlife. The Pyramid of Djoser is one of these buildings. It has a room below its surface. This building, which was also on top of the main bathroom, held the food for the life after death. #Egypt's past buried remains. Many places in Egypt were dug up by the Egyptian expedition of the Metropolitan Museum of Art from 1906 to 1936. Archaeologists found a number of tombs belonging to people who did not live in the countryside while they were working in graves in western Egypt, which is across the Nile from the modern city of Luxor. These tombs teach us a lot about how Egyptians lived in the past. They were made by a man from the Middle Kingdom and are very interesting. They lead to a tomb that has been destroyed of an official Mikatra boss. The second one is from the New Kingdom and is named after a woman. A man named Khonshu lived in the middle of the New Kingdom and owned the third one. He was placed in a tomb with many generations of his family. These 3 people all lived during very important times in Egypt's history. Around 2300 BC, during the reign of the 6th Pharaoh, Tulamijit, and all the other tombs were built from the tomb of a person who was in charge of all the royal family's secret papers and the royal chancellery. This person was found by Saqqara during a dig in 2021 with a group from the Polish Center for Mediterranean Archaeology at the University of Warsaw. Autumn in the dry setting, with King Dozier's step pyramid all around it. It was built next to Dozier's step pyramid, which is thought to have been built 4,700 years ago. Archaeologists say the tomb is 4,300 years old. It wasn't a mistake that his tomb was close to Dozier's step pyramid, which was the first pyramid ever built in Egypt. Even after he died hundreds of years ago, Djoser was still wanted to be buried next to the tower because he was such an important and respected king. His tomb was named Yet Chekshu. See note below. There are no family names on the tomb, but the burial room hasn't been changed and is big enough to hold his family's bodies based on what was found. Images Jiju let him hire skilled workers to help him build the tomb. The front of the tomb shows that it was crafted by a skilled artist, as the lines are elegant and the modeling is subtle, on par with the best of 2 worlds. The church was built on a rock that had been worn down and was so fragile that it needed the help of conservators. Gazi Juice was in charge of the project. He is the head of the conservation team at the National Museum in Warsaw. They were just rough ideas for crafts. There were drawings on the walls that showed how the bulls and cows that were used as sacrifices were led. The fact that the preparations aren't finished doesn't mean that Jeju hasn't been buried yet. If he hadn't been buried there, someone else would have moved in. Instead, the decorations aren't quite done. This is likely because the investor passed away before the work was finished and was buried in the tomb. They could not see what was inside the tomb because they only found the outside. They are going to go inside and look around. They might find his tomb and even his mummy there. Archaeologists believe that Saqqara has been an important part of Egypt for more than 3,000 years. It is 20 miles south of Cairo and west of the Nile River. The 5-mile plot is full of the remains of tombs, shrines, and walkways from different times in ancient Egypt. Explore and study have been going on in Saqqara since 1850. There have been important findings made there. Archaeologists also found megatombs in Jeju. These had big rooms full of mummies, tombs, and other gods. They also found the tombs of Ramesses II, who was in charge of the Egyptian pharaoh's money. The Great Pyramids in Luxor are more well known, but these and other finds will still be in the news. What do you think of the forbidden tombs that shocked the world? That's what archaeologists want to know. Do you think it was important to find the tomb? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more.